I just was looking for something to talk about, and just off the top of my head, I just decided to do. What the hell is that? What the fuck? What the hell? Oh, okay. Anyway, shit. I don't know. Anyway, that still looks weird. What the fuck is that? The hell is that? A shadow or something? What the fuck? Oh, it's the other pillow. Alright, it's just friggin'. Anyway, sorry. Where was I? Yeah, basically, you know what? I'm just gonna shoot this shit out and just stream a thought kind of shit. And if it offends anybody, I'm not gonna take a video down or anything, but I'm not gonna hem my words. And that's the shit about friggin' atheism and white people. Because I kind of watch where I step on that, because I talked about social deregulation, and that's basically that on social issues. See, here's how I divide up. I pretty much figured it out. If I was religious and I wasn't economically progressive, I would be a paleoconservative Republican. Simply. But since I'm something of a retro-futurist, I guess, or just a futurist, mostly kind of retro, and I, just forgot what the hell I was, honestly. But yeah, kind of retro-futurist, and I'm an atheist. I just don't believe in the supernatural. That puts me in what I could only describe as social deregulation, or small government on social issues. Because you could say I'm an anti-statist when it comes to cultural things, but which is kind of like a libertarian, except not on drugs, because I put social issues on some things economic, because I'm in America and I live in a capitalist society, and since we're in a world that has technology, everything is kind of capitalist, or at least based off money, because it's a technological age. Everything runs off a mechanized industry that is computerized, and it is that technology that works factories and warehouses that gives you higher standards of living that people rely upon for, like, medicines and other things. So I don't see, like, drugs as being like a libertarian, because I think that as an economic issue, because it's to do with your status. The better health care you have, the better you are off to friggin', be clean and sober and be more educated about those kind of things. Health, education, a lot of things like that. So, so when I'm looking at this stuff about, like, atheism is friggin' only for white people, that kind of equates to me that when they say atheism, that's like code word for social progressive. A social progressive is statist, because a statist is someone who wants a regulated society. See, I want economic regulations to ensure positive rights. You see, positive rights are ones where the government secures your liberties for you. It doesn't promise you liberties that it will not infringe upon itself. It protects you from the other person. So while positive rights protect you in one sense and all the civil liberties, they're ultimately progressive in nature, because the conservative option is negative rights, or the government not being the nanny state and only protecting you from itself, like your right to bear arms and your right for free speech, and only censoring, I'm just going to say censoring, or censuring, I guess that's a word, its own concerns. So when I hear that's only for white people, then I gotta think, well, then what they must be talking about is liberalism or social progressiveness, and to some extent social democracy, which is the neo-Marxism of the new left. Thank you, friggin' Frankfurt School cultural Marxist. The whole civil rights era thing. Don't tell me it's not Marxist. But then again, hey, I'm friggin' progressive on friggin' social issues, even though I'm, I want that redistribution of wealth for friggin' economic reasons. And that includes, to me, health issues. Well, okay, it's health, wealth, and age that I'm an economic progressive on, because I think that's the life course. And the life course means it's something everybody universally shares. We all worry about our status, our prosperity. We all worry about being younger or getting older. And we all worry about our health. So it's wealth, health, and age. Now, things we don't share are freaking race, gender, and sexuality. We all have different views on sex. So these are dividers to me. So that's why I want minimal government. I just don't want a collectivist state. I don't want private despotism. So when I'm hearing about white people freaking, white liberalism is racist, then I'm thinking that, well, then it's just some black militant thing that's anti-establishment, but it's using religion, either Christianity, fundamental Christianity, black baptism, black baptism, yeah, Baptist, or freaking Muslim, or Islam, black Muslims, to freaking bridge back their militant, radical, fundamentalist, racial views. Black Panthers, all that stuff. So of course they don't want them to be liberals, because it's like feminists. Oh, that's the multicultural. That's white man's freaking liberalism. And then, oh, that's really atheism. So what they're really saying, and just like a lot of neo-Marxists are in freaking the liberal camp, which is the freaking atheist camp, because even a lot of atheists aren't really, like the name applies, or you would think it means, freaking anti or naturalist, which means they don't believe in the supernatural, which you would expect. by being opposite of God, oh, I'm godless. It sounds like you're saying, oh, no, I don't believe in all that supernatural stuff. I believe in science and education and knowledge. But there's a lot of atheists that are non-theists. In other words, they don't believe in a God, but really they don't believe in the frigging conservative, theocratic Christian establishment is what it's really about, more or less. And a lot of them are Wiccans and pagans and freaking, Buddhists and a lot of other things under the sun that aren't theists. So they're atheists, and they're really just a code word for freaking secular humanists. More or less, or not. There could be pagans, there could be, all those things I said before, or whatnot. It's just an anti-establishment thing. There's a few, I think, people that really do lean to economic conservatism, but most people don't have a horse in the race when it comes to social conservatism and atheism. There just is no social conservativeness that isn't taken up by Christian history. I think I'm one of the few people that ever espouses it, and then again it's like they just ignore me because I'm like, I'm not a friggin' libertarian, then I could just say, oh, I'm a libertarian if I was an economic conservative, but I'm not. So, I'm like a paleo liberal kind of, small government social conservative thing. Not a nationalist. I don't know. Kind of, but not racially. I just don't care about all the nanny state bullshit. And, if it's to do with friggin' race, gender, or orientation, or sexuality, I'm like, do what you want, but I don't want to I don't want any stupid laws about it when there's a lot of other friggin' more important things that we could do to create social capital or physical capital into social capital that would solve a lot of these problems, that would take the base out of many of them. Widening the economic stratification, widening the middle class, dynamic, circular infrastructure of money. And then I'm conservative about some issues to do with paleo-conservative too. I don't believe in globalization or internationalism. I don't think other people have less rights. It's just, on some foreign issues and a lot of domestic issues, no. It's not a race issue. It's like, I feel very bad about that sometimes because, honestly, there should be no favorites in my racial choices, but there's no one less, but there are people I like more. I tend to gravitate more honestly towards some Asians and Hispanics than I do blacks, for example. I worked with Indians, East Indians, for a very long time, when I was first working. So I picked up a lot of that culture. I have no problem there, although I do feel like I was discriminated against as I got older and they just kept doing business. And, I've started seeing black and white workmen who were being displaced by these business owners who had a cultural basis to freaking to have a cultural consensus to pool their resources together through various minority help programs and immigrant help programs that people domestically weren't being helped. And this is completely off the topic of freaking, atheism is a white thing. So, I don't know. I do know. It's just, I'm not very good at speaking, I guess. Really great being a freaking blogger who can't speak. No. Yeah. I don't know. But basically, that is what goes through my mind. And it's like, yeah, it is all these things. No matter how much anyone wants to hem-haw it or freaking, shoo it away, whatever friggin' cult of friggin' hoo-ha you want to friggin' go into, That's hooey. That's friggin' liberal Marxist friggin' hooey. I don't buy it. Please. But then again, there's a lot of valid points within it too, so it goes. So, yeah, I just think that it's radical racialism and of minority against white liberalism. So, who's to say? I think it's a bunch of junk either way. That wasn't supposed to rhyme. Alright, enough. I don't know. Except, the one thing I am concerned about is with minimal government, there still needs to be certain safeguards so private, unregulated or deregulated despotism doesn't slip back in. So there would have to be an economic safeguard to that. So there still needs to be some some positive rights progressively on social issues. So how that would balance out between the two false dichotomies of white privilege versus black militantism is just really sad. That our society is in this friggin' shape. Semi-valid, really waste of time. Yep. That's Republicans.